welcome back to my YouTube channel. Last week we talked about fibromyalgia, and one of the key aspects of fibromyalgia that I had mentioned was mental health. And so this week I actually want to dive deep into mental health and what that looks like for people either with chronic illness or terminal illness, and really just anyone that struggles with mental health challenges. I do want to start off by saying that some of the topics I may discuss in this might be triggering to some people, so if you don't feel comfortable hearing about different aspects of mental illness or talking through that, I would advise you to not watch this video. For those who do feel comfortable digging into mental health issues, let's jump right in. My personal mental health journey has been full of ups and downs, and I think that is something that's not unique to me. I think a lot of people who struggle with mental illnesses and mental health challenges in general really see a lot of cycles in the emotions that they're feeling, in the challenges that they're facing, and ultimately in the way that that impacts their life. Since my YouTube channel is about chronic illness in particular, I do want to talk specifically to the way that mental health issues arise either from chronic illness or the way that chronic illness impacts your mental health, because I think that is something that is really not talked about enough in the chronic illness community. To give you a little bit of a background of some of the challenges that I've faced with my mental health, I first experienced depression when I was about 13, and a lot of that had to do with insecurities and just feeling inadequate. Those feelings were primarily triggered by the environment that I was in, and I didn't realize it at the time, but a lot of that was fueling these feelings of not being enough and questioning myself, wondering what was wrong with me, and it turned into a deep, dark place of depression for me because I didn't feel like I had the support that I needed, and I really didn't even understand the extent to which mental illness was a part of my life. I didn't know how to define it at that point. And then around the age of 14, I actually started having really intense anxiety. So a lot of the symptoms here had to do with panic attacks, and just general anxiety overall. It got to the point where I really wasn't able to leave the house much at all without having a severe panic attack that would just exhaust me for the entire day. And that didn't help my depression at all. It actually made it worse because I felt isolated at that point. I felt like I was stuck in a home where I wasn't always understood, and the mental health challenges that I had weren't talked about openly, and yet I couldn't get out and do the things that I enjoyed because anxiety would overtake me every time that I would try to do that. Like I said, that was my first encounter with depression and anxiety. And then when I was about 16, I started to face depression really strongly, more than I ever had. And again, a lot of it had to do with the environment that I was in, just not feeling accepted, not being at peace, and not being in an environment of peace. And I think that a lot of times has so much impact on our mental health, even more so than we realize in the moment. At the age of 17, a lot of my depression and anxiety turned into suicidal thoughts, and I had faced some suicidal thoughts when I was about 13 or 14, but when it happened at 17, I felt more capable of acting on it, and so I was really in a place of contemplating suicide and not sure how to face tomorrow, not sure how that I needed to even think about the future at all. I really just didn't want there to be a future. So I went through a time of a few months, I would say, where I really faced some of the darkest moments of my life, and someone who was really there for me during that whole entire time was my grandfather. He was my rock, and I just want to say rest in peace to him. I miss you, Papa. Okay, now I'm getting emotional, so I need to take a break. As I was saying, my grandpa really pulled me through that time and helped me find my footing again. He was very open about the fact that he had struggled with mental illness, and so that helped me feel less alone and helped me feel like I could come out on the other side and still have hope. And I did. I really attribute that to him. As I said earlier, I think a lot of times mental health and mental challenges really come in waves. And so at the age of 20, I went through a lot of very deep grief and a lot of moments where everything felt like it was falling apart, and my sense of security that I had had pretty much all of my life was falling away. And so I fell back into a lot of depression. There was one particular night in 2019 that I remember, and I was in one of the darkest places I've ever been in mentally, and really just didn't feel like I could go on. At that point, I had already started experiencing symptoms of my chronic illnesses, and a lot of the ups and downs of chronic illness were really starting to impact my mental health. And that, coupled with a lot of grief and loss in my life at that point, had brought me to this place where I just didn't have any idea how to continue, and I figured out a way to escape, and I was planning to act on it that night, and a friend of mine reached out to talk to me, and I just can't say enough how much close friends and family that are willing to hear your cry when it's silent means so very much. If you are watching this and you don't have mental illness challenges, I would encourage you, please, please, please reach out to people that you know struggle, and even those that you may not know if they struggle with it. There's always a reason why someone is put on your mind. There's always a reason why all of a sudden you think of them and think to reach out to them. So please act on that. You never know whose life you might be saving by simply being a friend and checking in on people. After that experience, I realized the focus that I needed to have on improving my mental health and becoming healthier from a holistic standpoint, and not just focusing on my pain levels or certain aspects of my health that maybe were showing externally, when in reality, internally, I was even worse off than I was outwardly. And so I started seeing a therapist regularly, and that has been a game changer for me. If you don't see a therapist or a counselor of some kind, make sure to get connected with someone, because that has carried me through moments since 2019 that haven't gotten to that level of extreme need for action, simply because I have someone to lean on and I have someone to talk to that is outside of my social circles and the interactions that I have on a daily basis. I do want to talk a little bit about what my mental health journey has looked like since my chronic illnesses have really started to impact my daily life. Like I said, I don't think people talk about this enough. I think for chronic illness warriors, and really even people with terminal illnesses, mental health is vital. It's the difference between giving up and finding the hope to keep on going. And when you battle every single day to get out of bed, and when you battle to live and to find the strength to give any more of yourself, hope is absolutely needed. I've continuously had to focus on grounding myself in the things that don't change regardless of how I feel. I think a lot of times I can get so bogged down in the way that I feel and how imperfect my body is and the way that it's inhibiting me from doing the things that I enjoy. And then I forget that who I am isn't defined by what I can do or what I can produce and bring to the table. It's solely defined by what's inside of me, and that's my heart and the compassion that I have on other people and the way that I show that outwardly. And I think that's so important to remind yourself of when it feels like your body's failing you, when it feels like everything around you is falling apart and you don't have the security of knowing that you can continue doing the things that you've always done, that you can continue to work the same job that you've worked from when you were healthy, that you can continue to have a social life. Those things, while they worked then, they may not work now, and that's okay because it doesn't define you. And so I encourage everyone to think about reshaping your perspective on what value you bring to the table. You have to understand that even in the most sick moments, when you feel so ill and you can't move, you can't get out of bed, the person that's on the inside of you still exists. And that person hasn't changed. The only way that that person changes is if you allow the hurt and the pain of your illness to overtake you and make you bitter. And I think it's so important to be grounded in who you are, despite what your body tries to tell you that you are. Something that I struggle with on a daily basis related to my chronic illnesses is that everything about my body and my capabilities and what many people would say I'm worth has completely changed since I got sick. I can't do a lot of those social activities that I was always so much a part of and truly enjoyed every minute of it. I also struggle a lot to continue to work a full-time job and continue to be involved in social circles and continue to have any type of friendships. And I think that's something that many people don't necessarily know. And so I want to share that, because if you're struggling to keep up with the expectations that you had placed on yourself before you were sick and you're trying to maintain that now, it's just not feasible, and that's okay. It really is okay. Another taboo topic around mental health that I do want to mention is that it's okay to take medication for mental health. I have been on and off medication for many years now that helped me cope with certain times in my life or helped me manage my mental illness more effectively. And taking a medication for mental illness doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you strong, because you can admit to the fact that something is wrong and you need help. And that takes a stronger person than anything that I know. And chronic illness and terminal illness will teach you that. Strength is found in your weakness and in your ability to admit that you're not capable of everything. If you struggle with mental illness and challenges surrounding anxiety, depression, any feelings as a result of either an illness or a circumstance in your life, I want to say that I'm here for you. I know what it's like to face that alone, and no one should have to go through that. And so please reach out if you feel to. I would love to talk more about my experience and the way that I manage mental illness challenges on a daily basis. But I hope that you found this video encouraging and that it helped you feel less alone in some of the challenges that you might be facing yourself. If you struggle with mental health challenges, I hope this video was helpful for you. Like I said, I'm here for you. I ultimately want to make this a space that is a community, and we can talk about the tough topics, the things that have been taboo over time, and we can bring those to light and feel less alone while doing it. And so I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on this journey. I know this is a very heavy topic. It's heavy for me to talk about, so I know it's heavy to listen to as well. But I so appreciate your support, and if you liked this video, I hope that you share it with your friends and family and help others around you who may be struggling with mental health challenges as well. And while you're here, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, all the things, and I'll see you next week for another video.